Look, I get it. When you're sick, the last thing you want to do is go in the kitchen and cook something. But take, for example, me. I don't feel too hot, but I know I need to eat a hot, warm soup. And this soup has the best ingredients in it that's going to make you feel better, like fresh turmeric, ginger, and loads of vegetables. It's super easy to make, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So today I'm going to show you how to make my immune boosting soup. And the first step, and this is very important, you need to make a cup of ginger tea because that's going to help you feel better. In addition, we're going to use a lot of ginger in this soup, but that's just my recommendation is to make a cup of tea while you make this because the whole point of the soup is to make you feel better. Now, one thing about this soup that I like is because you're not feeling that hot, you don't really want to cook. I've made this super easy. We're just gonna throw everything in as we go. There's really no right or wrong here. Don't freak out if you don't have everything ready. We're just gonna chop, add it, and cook it on a low heat. I wanna start sauteing the leeks with the celery and the carrots. Now, leeks are notorious for being sandy, so let me show you. We're gonna cut the root off, and then what I like to do is I like to just go down the middle. We have some dirt that builds up in the crevices. So I just want to make sure that we rinse this really well. And you don't want to use the dark green part of the leaves because those could be kind of tough and fibrous. So I'm going to chop this up, give it a good rinse, and throw it in the pot. Add some olive oil. Then we're going to transfer it to the pot. Next up, let's do our carrots. So what I'll do is I go down halfway and then you create these half moon pieces. And then when it gets to the thinner part of the carrot, we create these little circles. Plop in the carrots. You hear that sizzle? That tells you that the leeks, they're having a good time, they're hanging out. Now the carrots have joined the party. Now with soup, I like to use the inner stalk of the celery for the leaves. I love this part. I love the flavor of the leaves. And I'll throw in an outer stalk. For the celery, we're gonna do just a rough chop. So see what we have here? We have this beautiful inner celery stalk that has those little baby green leaves. Now I know shiitakes can be expensive, so don't have a meltdown. You don't have to use a lot, but I would say throw in a good handful. The one thing about mushrooms is people always say, don't soak them in water because they're just gonna absorb it all. Who's gonna soak mushrooms in water? You can still rinse them, just keep it brief. So you want to cut off the stems because they are kind of woody. I'll leave just like a little bit, just because it gives you a little bit of chew, but for the most part, you don't want these stems. So let's check out how everything's going on in here. So this is good. So at this point, I'm going to season everything with a little bit of salt and pepper. We're going to grate in the ginger and the turmeric. Now, with turmeric and ginger, some people peel the skin. I don't. You can't tell the difference. I've never had someone be like, the soup was good, but I could tell that you left the skin on the turmeric and the ginger and it ruined it for me. No one's going to say that. So, where's my microplane? I love this tool. I use this tool all the time. Mostly for nutmeg. When it comes to turmeric and ginger in a soup like this is a get better, feel better soup. So really, put as much as you want. Err on the side of putting more than less. Guys, I love ginger so much. Like I don't think you understand how much I love ginger. and how much of it I consume. I take ginger shots. I drink ginger tea. The other thing I'll say too about ginger is you can like dice it and put it in a soup, and it actually has a nice texture. It's kind of crunchy. I think most people think you have to microplane it. You don't. I'm doing that in this soup because I really want it to infuse throughout all of the soup. But if you're making a stir fry and you just want to chop some up in small dice, it's actually quite nice. Let's check this out. Okay, it's looking good. Now towards the end, I want to add our garlic. Garlic I always add towards the end of the saute process because it can burn. We're gonna do a rough chop. Now what's happening is we're getting some brown bits at the bottom of the pan, which is fine. Because now we're gonna add our stock. And that's gonna release these brown bits. The last two things we're gonna add before we add the broth is we're gonna add some nutritional yeast, a pinch of cayenne pepper. We're ready to add our stock. Now you could just add water, but you could add stock. And while that comes to a simmer, we're gonna turn this beautiful butternut squash into noodles. Now when it comes to the butternut squash, we're not gonna use the whole thing because that would be a lot. We're just gonna use this top part. Now, if you don't have a spiralizer, it's okay. You can cut the butternut squash into small cubes, throw it in the pot, it's still gonna be delicious, but this is more fun. Now, one thing I'll say is because the seeds are in the bottom part, we're just gonna cut the top part off, peel it, and then use that. But before we cut it, we might as well use the grip of the bottom base of the butternut squash to help us hold it. And you wanna get rid of this thick skin on the outside because it's not desirable. I love the sunshine orange. It's almost like a sherbet. So as you can see, we've peeled the outside of the butternut squash. Now I'm gonna cut the tip off, and then we'll cut off, I guess we would call it the neck of the butternut squash. So now you're left with all of this beautiful flesh that we're gonna turn into noodles. It's a workout. If you're sick, make your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your cousin do this. Now, one thing I'll say is when you throw them in the pot, maybe just do like a quick little tear because you don't want these to be ridiculously long. So I just tested a butternut squash noodle and it's tender. It takes about 5 minutes. Added the kale. Now I'm gonna turn off the heat. Now this step's important. At this point, we haven't really put that much salt in the soup. And that's because we're adding our miso. So this is our chickpea miso. You can use whatever miso you prefer. So we're gonna do about 1/4 cup of miso. And we're gonna add it to a bowl and we're gonna mix it with lemon juice and then we're gonna incorporate that into the soup. The other thing to remember is we haven't added any vinegar or acid to the soup. So this hit of fresh lemon juice and miso is gonna really liven it up. We're gonna add it to the soup. And then what I like to do is I like to grab a little bit of the broth. Just make sure you get every last bit. Okay, so at this point, this is the time you give it a taste and you see if it needs any salt. It's pretty perfect. Maybe just the littlest pinch. And now you're ready to serve. So you can ladle this straight into a bowl and enjoy it as is. If you want to make more of a meal out of it, you could serve it with rice or quinoa, any kind of roasted vegetable, roasted potatoes, roasted cauliflower. But honestly, I just like it on its own. My immune boosting soup. Here, you try it. Cheers.